Welcome to the very first version of Inside News with Airbrush Action. I'm Jay Sorensen from CBS FM Radio in New York City. And today, as the first interview, why not do it with the CEO, president, whatever, the chief mucky muck of Airbrush Action himself, Cliff Stiglitz.
Hello, Jay.
Hello.
Thank you. That was a great introduction.
Well,
Thank you.
It's the best I could do for, on this budget. It's pretty good. All right. So you have this enormous place in New Jersey, and you put out a magazine, and you've been doing videos for a real long time now. How did you get started with this whole thing? How did it begin?
I started as a t-shirt airbrush artist back in the late 70s, early 80s. My business at flea markets and fairs originally was t-shirts and transfers. And then I read an article in Impressions magazine by Tom Davison. I have to give credit where it's due. Tom is still with us and still airbrushing t-shirts, although he's semi-retired. And I read an article on why you should incorporate airbrushing into your, iron-on business. So I did that and hired an artist, Mary Lanzafane, to do the t-shirts while we still did the transfers. Right. And mid-fair, we were doing extremely well. I mean, we were turning over some good money. And she decided she wanted a vacation with her boyfriend in Seaside, who's now her husband. This is 30-some years ago. And as greedy as I was, I just took the airbrush and did my best. And in retrospect, I can tell you that the artwork was so bad. I now know that people bought out of sympathy. I mean, back in the day. But that's how I really started, was in airbrush. And I was working my way through college and then decided to, sort of take that knowledge and convert it to a magazine. So as we were coming out with Airbrush Action, there was a very established magazine at the time, Airbrush Digest, that just happened to go bankrupt. So we were able to buy the rights to that publication from the bankruptcy trustee for about $500.
That didn't scare you that they went out of business?
Well, at that time, I had no fear. And
we usually don't when we're young.
Yeah, no, we don't. I was 26, and I didn't really analyze things too closely. I was very aggressive, very tenacious, right. And just because they failed, I believed I could make it. I don't know why or how, but we started on a shoestring. We were able to buy the rights to the magazine, and with that came their mailing list, some office assets, some original artwork. It's really interesting. And so we launched in May of 1985. And we were virtually unchallenged for 10 years. It was a struggle at first, had to negotiate some debt, but we were the only game in town. And I never thought about failure. My mother worked with me in the business in the beginning, and she would say to me, just like this, we're dead, we're dead. You don't see the numbers, we're dead, we're dead. And I just never could think that way. Just nothing would stop me.
And that's how entrepreneurs make it, because it's a lot of guts. There's intuition involved, because you can't succeed without it. You have to see the future. And, well, that's quite an interesting beginning.
Well, ignorance may not be bliss, but it certainly worked for me at that time,
right.
And I was able to get through some really bumpy things, some big obstacles. And, so we're here today, more than 26 years later.
Now, you've been in the same location this whole time, or did you start out in a smaller place?
Started in my mother's house, and then moved to a small office below an attorney in Lakewood, 400 Madison Avenue. Great address, had to give it up because we were expanding. Yeah. Then moved to the Lakewood Industrial Park. Right. And then eventually bought this building, which is about 10,000 square feet.
It's a big place.
Yeah.
It's deceiving. It's deceiving from the outside even.
So we're here to stay. I'm not going to go anywhere beyond this place. I live, half a mile from where I work. And
I live 80 miles from where I work, so.
No, the commute is hard, but Jay, I'm very committed.
It's those tolls that kill you.
The tolls that kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to 1985. You start out on a shoestring. You create you fill a void that was left by the ending of one magazine, and then so people all over the country must have gravitated toward you gradually. How did you get the word out initially to tell people, hey, we've got this great new magazine? How did you do that?
Well,
that's before the internet too.
That's what I was going to say. It's an excellent question. It was before the internet. So I got on the phone to every art store in the country to carry the magazine. We didn't have newsstand distribution at that time, and that seemed to be the outlet. We had big chains or art stores like Pearl Paint,
Right.
but everyone really, most people, most stores, most retailers embraced us because we were the only airbrush magazine, and and they knew it would be a great vehicle to promote their airbrush department.
Right.
And at the time we got into this, there might have been more than 6,000 art stores in the U.S. Today, there might be 500 if we're lucky.
So the industry has,
Well, with the advent of computer graphics,
right, I was just-
a lot really has changed. And so now we're primarily, mainstream newsstand distribution. 7-Eleven, Barnes & Noble, no longer Borders, they just went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And we're in all branches of the military. So, and we keep aggressively pursuing distribution, in those channels. But we still are in art stores, like Coast Airbrush, great source of airbrush supplies and equipment. They've been selling us. They do a very good job of that.
So you know everybody in this industry pretty much.
Yeah, I do. I mean, we, sometimes I think we're the hub of it, because we're the magazine.
Right.
We do get the word out. But in the beginning, though, getting back to the question, it was just a lot of phone. Really, it was all we knew, was really just getting on the phone and dialing for dollars.
Yeah.
And I traveled around a lot, visiting stores, visiting advertisers, and that's how we cultivated the business.
Now, how did you get the stable of people that you have? Now, to have a business like this, obviously, you have to have the very best people available that you can find. I mean, where did you find these folks?
We have such a great chemistry. It's like dating. It's a lottery, and over time you're going to hit it. One of these days you're going to hit it. And it's taken me this many years to really have the staff that we have, and we're a cohesive team. We're a relatively small team, but we get a lot done. Linda Furiato, who's been with me, has been with me for 16 years. So I've had some longevity here, and that really is important. The thing that we do the Airbrush Getaway workshops in Vegas, and I get asked that question a lot about the workshops because we have sometimes 20 to 30 people on staff. We're only about 6 or 7 here, but in Vegas or Orlando, where we do our Airbrush Getaway workshops, we're 20 to 30, and I get asked that question. And it just took years of refining and weeding out the bad. It only takes one bad person to really ruin the crop. It really does.
You have to be team members, without a doubt.
You do.
Okay. Now,
and group chemistry is very important.
Right.
That takes a lot of.
And I think that's really good advice for people who are watching this about their own business. If you intend to have a great team around you, this is a perfect example of how it can work, and if you cultivate it and nurture it. Now, it's a very unique field. So now, with the advent of the internet, the magazine is still viable. How did you pull that off? Because magazines and a lot of publications are having a rough time, and I'm not putting you on the spot here, but they are having more of a rough time now selling copies, physical copies, as opposed to putting it on a tablet or through another source.
Well, in today's world, you have to. I hate to sound like my parents, but in today's world, you really have to constantly reinvent yourself. I find that we have to be more creative than we've ever been, and I always thought we were pretty creative as a company. A lot of guerrilla tactics to survive, but it has gotten more challenging, more difficult. But I will say that because we participate today in more magazine distribution promotions, our numbers are higher than they've ever been. We are now an iPad application. We will be available for the Droid and other formats soon. I mean, we will, and we have a digital version of the magazine that's available online at airbrushaction.com.
Right.
And I knew these wouldn't be home runs, but at least we stay on the cutting edge.
Right.
And it is available. It really helps the foreign subscribers or people interested in the magazine because it's a lot less expensive for them to subscribe to our online publications than to get the physical copies.
Another question.
Yeah.
And I'm not knowledgeable about this, and you can answer this. Internationally, what kind of business do you have? I mean, internationally, because you have different language barriers and things like that. How do you get around that?
Yes and no. I find that there is the language barrier. We're only published in one language, and we've kicked it around for many years to be multilingual. But a very savvy guy in distribution that I know said, don't waste your money. You know, if you publish it, they will come. Anyone that's really into airbrush will come. And airbrush, in a sense, is a universal language. You know, it's the pictures that the people really dig. And you know, they may not be able to read the captions in some countries, but you know, we do continue to sell to subscribers internationally. We have distribution, formal distribution internationally.
Well, you can also translate into other languages from English too. People can do that if they copy and paste it and put it on one of those sites. It translates it, and you can read it in your language.
It's true, and we are toying around now with creating maybe digital language versions of the magazine, because we don't, you know, we really want the world to be able to enjoy what we do, you know. But we're still out there. I mean, you know, stronger than people realize. They're getting into 7-Eleven. I mean, Playboy was banned from 7-Eleven.
Absolutely.
So Airbrush Action.
Yeah, I've seen some of your pictures.
Yeah, I know. That's what surprises people, that we're in 7-Eleven.
Right.
But, you know, we keep it a little tamer than that.
Yeah, of course, you have to.
But that was a big blow to Playboy.
Oh, I'm sure it was. It almost put them out of business.
It did.
Yeah, what would Hugh Hefner do then?
It did.
The artists themselves. Let's talk about the artists themselves.
Yes.
You know, it's such a unique field, as I alluded to. How do people just get involved with airbrush as opposed to standard painting of pictures or drawings?
Well, you know,
It's different.
They're drawn to it. You know, they might see airbrushing on a shirt. You know, I think sometimes it all begins with T-shirt airbrushing. If you listen to Terry Hill, who's probably the world's best-known T-shirt artist, he thinks everybody starts there. And you know, and I think he has it partly right. I do think to a large extent that's true, and that's sometimes people's exposure. They see it on shirts. They see a really good shirt artist, then they start to see it on everything else. You know, we used to be an Illustrators magazine, by the way, and then with the advent of digital illustration, we had to really shift gears to other applications. And so we got into the automotive side of things. And so people are really drawn to that. You know, automotive custom painting, airbrush body art, temporary tattoos, tanning, hobby applications. There are applications that, exist that, I don't know will ever fall prey to computing. And we love computers. We love the technology. We embrace it. We love it. We don't fight it. It is what it is. It will keep evolving. But I think there will always be, a demand for hand-painted art in both airbrush and paintbrush form.
Are you looking for people to submit their works to you? I mean, is there a resource that you'd like to utilize in that way?
Well, that's a great question, and I get emails all the time about that. People wanting to know how they can get in the magazine, and it's not nearly as difficult as people think. All you have to do is email me. You can email me at ceo@airbrushaction.com. ceo@airbrushaction.com. You can see it on your screen, I hope. But and let us see your work. If nothing else, we can put it in the reader gallery that we have in the magazine, and we do have a reader gallery. So it's very simple. It's Jay, you could attest to this probably, that it's even easier to get on some of the morning TV shows than people realize, because everyone's looking for the story in both print and broadcast. We're always looking for new talent. Always. Don't think that we have too much out there or that the work in the magazine intimidates you. You don't think you're good enough. Let us be the judge of that.
Yeah, and if you marry your 14-year-old cousin or something like Jerry Lee Lewis back in the 50s did, you too can get on the morning news. We're not advocating that, of course.
Yeah, and then while they're interviewing you about that, you can talk about your airbrush skills.
Absolutely. See, there's lots of ways to do smart marketing.
Yeah, even if you're doing it in prison after you marry your
Absolutely. That's great. I'll tell you, this field, as an outsider, I've not been in the industry at all. I've known you since you were a kid.
Yeah,
shows
right.
how old I am.
That's
but this industry seems like it could be boundless. I mean, really, I think once you get into those international markets and expand it here, this could be just an incredible venture. And it's already at that level, because I know you do video constantly. Doing new videos all the time. Explain that process about the videos that you do.
Well, what really helps the magazine, stay alive are our ancillary efforts. I consider myself more the fundraiser of this company than anything else, because we really try to keep this magazine afloat. And the DVDs, we've produced really more than 100 titles, but if you eliminate the VHSs at this point,
Yeah.
some that we have not redone.
They still have them in Russia.
They do. Well,
they have the Betamax.
I've got a lot of surplus for them. I'll tell you what, if they want some extras, VHSs on Airbrush, I got them, even in PAL format. But we have 85 DVDs, or more than 85 DVDs right now, and we also publish books. If you think you have a good book idea that would do well, let us know. And then, of course, we have the digital versions of everything. And then we do our Airbrush Getaway workshops, which is really one of the most important fundraising efforts that we do. We have great sponsors for that program, and I have to say we have, SEM products. We have Createx, Auto Air, Colors, Coast Airbrush, Iwata, Nest Iwata, Art Tool. We have some really good sponsors, people that really care about the industry.
Cliff, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Airbrush Getaway program that you've been doing?
The Airbrush Getaway program started probably more than 21, maybe 22 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it started with 3 or 4 classes, and now we've got probably 14 classes. And we stage the program 3 times a year, twice in Vegas, once in Orlando, Florida. And we recruit some of the top talent in the world to teach. And people are kind of surprised that all this great talent is so accessible to us. But they really are. They enjoy it. They love the camaraderie. They love to get together. It's a reunion every time, sort of like a fraternity.
In essence, people are teaching, because how else do you learn it unless somebody shows you how to do it? Unless you have the innate sense on your own, which is unusual.
Exactly. But when we first pitched the idea to some of these world-class artists in the beginning, they sort of had their reservations about doing it, because they didn't want to share secrets that would come back to bite them. They didn't want to develop an army of competitors.
That's understandable.
It is, but it never quite worked out that way, because we found that artists, usually really talented people that come through the program, pretty much leave with their own style, their own twist on something. But it's a very dynamic program, and we teach a variety of courses ranging from automotive custom painting, T-shirt airbrushing, airbrush mastery, pinup art.
I'd like to get involved in that.
Oh, come on, Jay.
I just want to watch.
Yeah, it would be great.
Yeah.
It would be great. I say that, but about other things. But anyway, we got a custom paint lab, which is really, really well done class on spray gun handling techniques and working with urethanes. And we work with urethanes at the Getaway for most of the automotive classes, and Auto Air, Colors, Createx, and it's working out extremely well. We can get anywhere from 125, 130 to 150, and we've had as many as 175 students, and it's terrific. It's a great program, and it really does really help promote the industry, promote the use of airbrush. We teach people how to use the equipment properly, how to use the paint properly, and these instructors really come holding nothing back. Whatever you want to learn. And
it benefits them, because if the industry does well, then they'll do even better.
And they'll do even better. Right. But the beauty of what the magazine has done in the workshops is they've really raised the standard. And I have noticed over the past 26 years that there is such an improvement and evolution in the quality of the art. And that's really important, because when I first started out, like I said, I thought originally, people bought my T-shirts out of sympathy in the beginning, because you would look at the forced expressions of glee on their faces when they were probably depressed. But there was a lot of that back then, But I find that the better art that's out there, that's seen through the magazine, at the workshops, that more people emulate that standard and not a lower standard, and that's really very important. So the workshops are very, very important. And they really, you get a great bang for the buck for 1 and 4 days of airbrush instruction.
And of course, if you want information, you can go to the website and get that, and I'm sure we'll have something on the screen.
Yes, just go to airbrushaction.com. It is the Airbrush Getaway program, and it is held 3 times a year. And
in pretty nice places. I mean, Vegas and Orlando, please. Orlando's in the wintertime, right?
Orlando actually is in May.
Oh, okay. Well,
it is in May. Vegas is in the fall and in February.
That's good.
So just for the latest dates, I don't want to date this presentation, so I'm not going to go to the website. But it's a great program. We also have like group discounts. We have special incentives for people to come. And you will have not only the time of your life, it will be one of the most dynamic paint experiences that you will ever have. Guaranteed, you know, hands down, nothing is better. There's actually no other program in the world like it.
Well, this is the first of what we're calling Inside News with Airbrush Action. And I have a feeling that you're going to be seeing a lot more of this guy. And you'll probably be seeing a little bit of me too, because we're going to be able to talk to artists and to give you some hands-on via this venue, if you will. And this is going to be something that will be a lot of fun for me and fun for you as a viewer. So thank you very much for tuning in today, and thanks to Cliff Stiglitz for a great interview. You did a nice job.
Thank you.
He's okay, isn't he? He's all right.
It's because of Jay.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. See you soon. Be big.